Okay, so episode 62 of the BRose Knows Show. Episode Wednesday, February 3rd. It is kind of a crazy day, but the only thing that I wanted to podcast about today is a gift that I got yesterday, a gift that I received that I knew was coming, that I was like so anxious for. And it's something we talked about on the podcast before. But Chandler and Tyson, I talked about me doing their wedding video on here before. I talked about how nervous I was for it and everything like that. Well, they loved it and they appreciated it and they wanted to show me their appreciation. And they did so with an absolutely incredible gift of Apple AirPod Maxes. The new headphones from Apple, the crazy cool, crazy expensive. They didn't need to do this gift that was very overwhelming for me. And I wanted today to do a full podcast review of them. I wanted to come on here and tell you about, are they the best thing in the world? And I'm going to do that on Friday now, because instead today we're talking country music. We're talking two stories out of Nashville that just captivated the whole music industry today. They, at least one captivated the whole music industry. And then one kind of didn't get the attention that it probably should have because of the other story. And I've been debating, which one do I start with today? Do I start with the uplifting, the positive story that maybe didn't get its full shine today because of the other story? Or do I start with the one that's maybe a little bit more of a downer? Well, it is more of a downer. There's no doubt about that. But do I start with that one, or do I start with the uplifting one? And I've decided I'm going to start with the TJ Osborne story. So the story that didn't get enough shine today, I think, because today TJ Osborne, in an incredibly well-written and awesome piece with Time magazine, which you don't hear about Time anymore, right? Like Time, you hear about the person of the year, and that's the only time you hear from them. Well, we heard from them today in a big way when they announced that TJ Osborne came out as the first openly gay country music artist, signed to a major A label, at least. I don't know what label they're with exactly, but they're brothers Osborne. You know their songs, even if you don't know them by name. You know some of their songs for sure. You've seen them here in Spokane at the Gorge. You've seen them at Watershed. If you've been to Watershed, you've seen the brothers Osborne because they've been there a few times. And they're an incredible duo. And today, TJ, one of the brothers, which I think that it stands for Thomas John, and then his brothers, John Thomas, which I didn't know that until today, but I love that it's just their names just flip. So we have JT and TJ. TJ is the one that came out as openly gay. And if you didn't see the Time piece, I highly recommend going to read it because it was such a good read. And they covered everything. They covered the fact that at one point he's like, well, people are going to say, why are you even making a big deal about this? And they're right. And he's like, but at the same time, it hasn't been done in our industry before. Nobody's done it. So it does need to be kind of a big deal so that I can show up to the CMA Awards with a guy and I can show up with a date and it doesn't freak everyone out. And so he came out in this article that was really well done. And I can't imagine if you were hiding that secret until age 36, especially in like the public eye, like he is. Like Brothers Osborne's a big deal. And so for them to hide that in the public eye for as long as he did, I can imagine why he's saying, hey, I wanted to do this so I can bring a date to the CMA Awards because this is exhausting. He talked about some of the songs that he's written, how they've been influenced by his relationships, and he couldn't explain like the pain he was going through if he was going through a breakup or something like that because nobody knew the secret. So to carry that around for as long as he did, I'm happy he got to get that out because him and his brother make incredible music, and I assume this will lead to more great music from them. I think this is going to lead to great things. I imagine that weight being off his shoulders is going to help him be free to write, be free to record, be free to do so many more things. So I'm excited to see what happens there. And it's kind of a bummer that he felt like he had to hide it for so long because of the way country music in Nashville are, because of the way that he thought it would be perceived. And he said in the Time piece, if you don't read it, he said, I'm not afraid of getting booed off a stage in Chicago. I don't think that's going to be the key. But when me and my brother are playing a small town county fair, I'm interested to see what the reaction will be to that. And I think there's a lot of truth behind that because we think of those small towns, those rural towns, and they get this reputation of they're not as progressive, and they get it for a reason. So it'll be interesting to see how do those places respond to the Brothers Osborne? How does the people that don't necessarily agree with it, how do they respond to these shows and stuff like that? But I don't think that the Brothers Osborne is going to have any trouble anytime soon selling out a show because the minute we're allowed back, they're one of the fun ones to watch live. They're one of the duos that if you get to see them live, it gets you out of your seat. It is beyond enjoyable, and their music is great. And so I'm excited that TJ did this for him and just takes that weight off his shoulders completely, and also gives us a chance to get Nashville a little bit more progressive. And we say Nashville, but I don't mean the city of Nashville. I mean the format of country music. I mean the genre of country music needs things like this to move forward and to be better, and to show that they don't have to have that same reputation that they've had all these years of, well, you can't come open about things like this, or you can't say certain things in Nashville or else it's going to end your career. And that's exactly the opposite of what happened today. There was so much support for the brothers Osborne, so much support for TJ Osborne. And it was really cool to see. I didn't see one negative thing about this story. I only saw it from people that are super involved in the country music scene, though. I follow a lot of that on social media, both Instagram and Twitter. And I saw a lot of it from them, but I didn't see this story as like a big thing. So that's what I mean at the beginning when I said it didn't get the shine that it deserved, because I didn't see it everywhere. I didn't see a ton of people talking about it outside of the people that I follow that are closely related to country music. So I wanted to get that out there in case you didn't see that one. And there was some good news in country music today as they took a step forward. They changed their reputation a little bit, but then they also changed their reputation in another way too. We had a less good story come out of Nashville again. Well, this one literally came out of Nashville, but country music is what I mean. And the story was that there was a video that came out from last weekend of Morgan Wallen, who we've talked about on this podcast numerous times. We talked about him a bunch. Morgan Wallen came out and said there was a video that came out of him saying the N-word, just out in public, not in public. He was in his neighborhood. He was yelling at a couple of his friends after they came home drunk one night. And he just yelled a bunch of not a bunch of slurs, a bunch of expletives, and then the N-word with it. And you can't do that, Morgan Wallen. We all know that you can't do that. We all know that that's not okay. But he did it, and it got caught on his neighbor's Ring doorbell. Naturally, TMZ got the video, and it goes to say, how did TMZ get it? The neighbors probably sold it. I imagine if you live next to Morgan Wallen, you either love Morgan Wallen or you absolutely positively hate living next to Morgan Wallen, because I imagine that he's loud all the time. The videos we saw from his house, he had like a ton of garbage in front of it and junk in front of it. And it's like, what are you doing, dude? Why is this how you're living? So I imagine that his neighbors were more on the I hate living next to Morgan Wallen side. And they sold this video to TMZ, in which Morgan Wallen left a statement saying something along the lines of, I apologize. There's no room for this. I need to be better. Well, yeah, Morgan Wallen, you do need to be better. You definitely need to be better. And you needed to be better when you were on tour and you got in a fight with a fan. And you needed to be better when you were on Broadway South or whatever they call it down there in Nashville, and you started some kind of scuffle and got arrested. You needed to be better in Tuscaloosa when you made out with all those girls. You've told us this phrase of I need to be better so many times. And the tweet that went most viral from this moment was the one that said, at this point, I've heard more apologies from Morgan Wallen than I have good songs. And that's not true. Morgan Wallen is an incredibly talented artist. Morgan Wallen is the man when it comes to music. When it comes to the songs he just released, that 30-song double album that he just released, there's no denying it's great music. But great music doesn't outweigh being a bad person in any way. And country music fans love country music a lot more than they do Morgan Wallen. And Morgan Wallen hurt the genre of country music. He hurt the format of country music yesterday by doing this, by going out and doing this, because it left everybody in a spot of what do we do now? We have this artist that's just up and coming like nobody else. This artist that's just booming and making hits like nobody else is right now. It's him and Luke Combs, 1-2, everyone's opinion, right? Well, now what do we do now that he's a bad guy? And not only has he been a bad guy once this week with this video, but he's been a bad guy so many times over the past few months and made so many mistakes that he just keeps telling us, well, I got to be better. I got to be better. Well, at what point do we stop trusting that you're going to be better, Morgan Wallen? And that's what happened with this video last night. That's what happened after the TMZ video. The dominoes started to fall, and it started to come out that, well, I think it always starts with Kelsey Ballerini and Maren Morris. Their tweets came out, and I believe it was Maren Morris that started it and said, this is unacceptable. This isn't what we need to do. This isn't who we should be. And Kelsey Ballerini retweeted it and said, if it was a female, they would have been canceled a long time ago. And Marin came up and backed her. And it seems to be these two that go back and forth on Twitter that always start like they always light the spark. They always start the conversation. And this conversation would have been had either way, but I was happy to see those two doing it because to me, they are two of the most talented artists in country music. They represent the brand and they do a damn good job doing it. And I am perfectly okay with them speaking for the whole genre because their opinions seem to be so in point with being a good person. And they're talented enough to represent the genre and stuff like that too. So they started tweeting these things and it started to gain a little bit of traction. Like, yeah, you're right. If this happened to a female, this wouldn't have flown. But you know what? It's Morgan Wallen. It's the king of country music right now, or at least the prince. What are they going to do about it? Country music has a long history of turning their head the other way and ignoring it and pretending like it didn't happen. Well, that can't fly this time because now we're talking about something way worse. We're talking about just blatant racism, screaming it outside his house. And he wasn't screaming it like down the street or anything. He was just yelling at his friend that was leaving. But we're not defending it. Country music has no room to defend what Morgan Wallen did yesterday or on Sunday. Or the video came out yesterday. And that's what we saw. We saw a reaction that we wouldn't normally see in country music. As of last night, almost immediately, there was, I don't know the name of it, starts with a C, but a big radio group that had over like 300 country stations in the country that said, we're not playing Morgan Wallen anymore. We're done with Morgan Wallen. We're stepping back from that and we'll see what happens. And then this morning, iHeartRadio comes out and says, our 1,000 radio stations, and that's across all genres, but our 1,000 radio stations are taking a step back from Morgan Wallen. We're not going to play his music anymore. And that's just how it's going to be. And then a few hours later, out comes Big Loud Records, his record label, and says, we're suspending Morgan Wallen for making new music for now. And they use the word suspension. They didn't terminate the contract, so we'll see what happens there. There's a chance that they figure that out as he maybe makes steps to redeem himself and stuff like that. But then it just kept coming one after another. Whiskey Riff articles, Taste of Country articles. The CMT first canceled them. CMA Awards said, we're reevaluating our stance. AMC Awards came out and said, you're not eligible for any more awards this year. Morgan Wallen, who's the reigning CMA and ACM Rookie of the Year, right? Like he's the newcomer of the year for those two. So it was a big deal. It was a big response. And it was a response that was warranted from all these people. No, I don't think anyone was in the wrong. That's my opinion. To cancel him, to say we're done with this for now until action is taken or until a change is made from this young man. We can't keep hearing, I'm sorry, we'll be better when there's no proof that you'll be better. And so it was wild to see this because nobody expected it. Nobody thought country music would actually do this to one of their biggest stars because in the past they haven't done it. They haven't proven that they are willing to cut ties with someone who doesn't maybe show the best values or show the best morals. So they did it today, and I think it made a lot of people proud. I think it made the genre take a big step forward. And hopefully it keeps going that way. Between these two stories, I think that the country music went a long ways today, and I hope that it keeps up. I hope that they keep being the good guys. I hope they keep being on the right side of things and not ignoring issues and not ignoring people's faults just because they make really good music. And I'm sure Morgan Wallen will come out with an apology, and hopefully it's genuine, and hopefully he learns from this and he can come back and make a change in a positive way. But only time will tell us that. For now, all we know is what you did yesterday, Morgan Wallen, was unacceptable. And finally, country music stepped up and agreed and said, yeah, that was unacceptable. We can't have that. And we're not going to have that. And we're all going to act together. And it helped that first radio station came out late last night and did it because it set the tone. It said, this is unacceptable and we're just going to not deal with it. So that's it. So thank you for listening to these two country music stories. I am 100% on the side with everybody on both. I haven't seen a lot of people that take Morgan's side today outside the usual suspects. I haven't seen anybody bashing TJ Osborne, and that makes me happy. That makes me feel like we're going places with country music. So thank you for listening today. I will be back Friday, and for real, we're going to review these things. On Friday, we're going to talk Apple AirPod Maxes. I will see you then.